Have you ever thought about what an unsuccessful sales hire really costs you? I know, the news is scary enough out there, and it can cause us to have some decision paralysis because of all of the uncertainty going around. But this is not the time to panic, people. This is the time to focus on what to do next. And when we do, we will find those hidden opportunities. I mean, if you think about it, during our last major economic downturn, that's when companies like Square, Uber, and Airbnb got their starts. And with the right team, you can feel like this is your time to show what you and your team are made of. But then there are those of us who are wondering, is this the team that's going to get us through a competitive and price-sensitive market? You're not sure? It's a good question to ask. And I've been through this more than once and seen what happens. People move companies, budgets freeze, decisions get delayed, discounts start happening. Even the most successful sellers are going to struggle without some intensive training and coaching. But the good news is that when the bigger companies are slowing down their hiring or laying off, smaller and mid-sized businesses have more opportunities to hire sellers. But there's still a lot on the line. One of the things that I've seen happen is that the cost of an unsuccessful hire can cripple a small, mid-sized business because they're not calculating what the actual cost is. I mean, they're on a % commission, right? Isn't that really all it's costing you? No. It still surprises me that so many of the sales leaders that I talk to and work with don't know what the true cost of a failed hire is for them. I mean, they have some of the back of the napkin math, but then wonder why the CFO is cutting their hiring budget. It's likely because if you're a startup, the cost of an unsuccessful sales hire can ghost you for years. It can cost you several rounds of funding. And if you're a small or mid-sized business, that cost of a sales hire that doesn't work out can be 2 or 3 times the salary that you might pay them. So what's your number? What does a sales hire that fails really cost you? So let's do some math. I mean, who doesn't love math, right? So to calculate the true cost of an unsuccessful sales hire, there's a lot more factors than just how much you're paying them. First, think about how many sellers you've hired in the past 5 years. Then write that down and then write down how many of those either quit or were let go. These 2 factors are going to tell you what your turnover percentage rate is. Next, how many people did you interview to get those ones that made it all the way through the hiring process? What's the average length of an interview, and how many times does a candidate go through an interview? How many hours are you spending in coaching those hires? That's right, because your time and your team's time has a cost to it. So what's the value of your time? If you don't know what that is, take how much you earn a year, divide it by 52 weeks, divide that number by the number of hours that you actually work a week. That's your hourly rate, that's the value of your time. Then write down what are the fees that you're paying to a recruiter in the next factor. What are the ad costs that are associated with each position? Now, these additional factors will give you what your actual recruiting costs are, but there's still a cost to onboarding, training, and coaching each one of those new hires. So you're going to need to also calculate that by adding in the number of hours spent coaching and the cost of training each seller in both time and resources. Plus, you have to add in whatever base salary you're going to be giving each of those salespeople outside of commission. All these together will give you the cost of your sales ghosts or unsuccessful hires. But those are just the out-of-pocket costs. What about the lost opportunity cost? If you add in the business that's not closed or missed quota, and those that it's going to get lost by those that are likely to leave, you can see how an unsuccessful hire will cost you a round of funding or a lot of available capital. Now, can you take that 50-50 chance? Of course not. It's a scary number, and that's probably why many people don't want to calculate it. But knowledge is power. And action is change. And so if not for your sake, then the sake of the next salesperson you hire, if you want them to be successful and they want to be successful, it's not going to happen by forcing a round peg into a square hole. So no more head in the sand about what a failed sales hire can really cost you, because now there's an Excel spreadsheet in the comments below where you can actually calculate it all for yourself just like we did. But you have to also ask, why is the turnover rate for sellers so high? That's when you have to consider how we hire and onboard and train those sellers. This is something you can take control of. So stay tuned for the next installment in this series. We're going to be talking about scientific secrets for building the superhero sales teams, because we're going to need them. So starting with, how do you attract and source and hire those candidates? We're going to talk about what an ideal seller profile looks like, and we're going to talk with other sales leaders what their profile looks like and what you can learn from them. But if you can't wait till then, use the link below to schedule a call with me, and we can talk about how to take your hiring sales success rate to just over 90% to ensure that you can continue to grow despite whatever happens in our economic downturn. Until then.